where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live Thursday, August 6, 2020. I hope everybody is having a lovely, lovely day. Ooh, look at this shaven beard. Woo!
Do it more often.
I should do it more often. Nice to see you all again. I was off for a little bit, making that sweet, sweet romance and love. So we'll see how today goes. I might have to bring on my new fiance, show off that smile, that ring, but I might have to make some demands, cause frankly, status quo, we could use the dough. So I think we will see how we do in Super Chats, GoFundMe, all that good stuff, before bringing on my fiance. Sounds too high, blown out. Hold on. Let me know if that's a little better for your ears. Don't want to hurt the folks. So I was gone for a while, but the country is still very corrupt. The country is still very, very unjust. People are already facing evictions, and people still lack health care. And although my life is getting wonderful, again, I'll be bringing on my fiance in a little bit. How about some engagement super chats? Just throwing it out there. Engagement super chats. We're hemorrhaging. Unfortunately, we're hemorrhaging members. We're over 200 members we've lost. So we got to do something here. So hopefully you guys could drop in the super chats. We're also, still pushing our GoFundMe along. Less than $8,000 to go, I believe. So drop any amount in our GoFundMe. Jen is doing a family thing right now, so I'll drop the link in the GoFundMe right there. But the bottom line is, as happy as the last few days have been, and again, Anat will be on camera later, depending on how many super chats she's put on her makeup. But I'm going to exploit. We need to get some super chats before I bring you on. I need some super chats. That ring cost me my life. Colin Tooley, $5. Congratulations, engagement super chats. I agree, Colin. I agree. So we're going to get to all of it, and we'll bring her on, super chats or not, in a little bit. But I gotta be honest with you. I don't really care how the resistance folks feel, but I can't in good conscience sit here and pretend that the only thing necessary is just to get Trump out of office and our holy democracy will come roaring back if we get rid of Trump. Because honestly, the faux unity on display that I'm seeing on CNN and elsewhere between the moderate wing, i.e. the Republicans pretending to be Democrats, and the progressives holding their nose and voting for Biden, It's almost like these people are pretending that the only thing that matters is getting rid of Trump. Everything will be just fine if we get rid of Trump. And I'm here to tell you that ain't true. Jacqueline DeBlue, 50 pounds across the pond. Jordan, you're glowing. So, London for your honeymoon? Yes, much love to both. Hey, at this point, London, maybe Italy too. We'll see where our love takes us. I can't guarantee it, but we do want to come to London. We do love London. She went to school there. So I will keep London in mind. I don't know about for honeymoon. I really want to go to Italy. That's where I was conceived, actually. I was conceived in Venice, but I haven't been there as a human. So Italy and possibly London right after that. Thank you. Betavirus, $2 in the super chat. Appreciate it. Mike Blair, $2. Super grats. Thank you, Mike. Anthony Martino, $10. Hope you didn't have to do any breaking and entering like me and Sarah did to find the perfect place to propose. So enjoy the hell out of it. Happy engagement. Why, thank you, Anthony. No breaking or entering. Almost falling off a cliff. But other than that, it was all good. LJL, $20. Congrats on your engagement. Have Jen get you the $20 I sent the other day for her towels. Ooh, I like that. And yes, great job to Jen for holding down the fort while I was gone. So I'm going to get into the Democratic Party's corruption in a little bit because honestly, I don't need to put any more disclaimers. You all know what I think about Trump, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Joe Biden is wonderful and that we should just pretend that, it's just Joe Biden is so much better than Trump that hold your nose and vote for Trump. Because I don't think that. I think Joe Biden is less verbally racist. I think he's less viscerally horrible, but I think he's corrupt in all sorts of ways that are being papered over by our corporate media. So that's what we're going to get into. Now, before we get into that, and remember, press that like button. Already almost 200 people watching. 116 of you have pressed that like button. So I need every single one of you right now. Please press that like button like your life depends on it, because it does. Not literally, but you know the drill. Press that like button. And also press the share button. Share this live stream. We've passed 87,000 subscribers while I was gone, so that's awesome. We got to keep this growth. So keep pressing the share button. Keep pressing the like button, the thumbs up button right under the live stream. And the more people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream. So before we get into Biden and all that, we need to get, and we're going to talk coronavirus too. I want to start with something that I uncovered a little bit earlier. In the good old days when you found sitting incumbents literally, it seems like, coordinating with neutral election supervisors, that would be kind of considered scandalous, But in the United Corporations of America, just another day at the office. So for those of you that forget, Kelly Elaine, $20, small wedding, huge honeymoon, worked for us. Why, thank you, Kelly Elaine. Let's keep these super chats coming. We could do both. Even though this is going to status quo and not my personal honeymoon fund, not to leave people thinking we're corrupt or anything. For those of you that remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she was the DNC chief that helped the DNC in 2016 rig the primary for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders. She then had help, I guess, rigging her primary against Tim Canova. If you recall, Broward County, which her district is in down there in South Florida, the supervisor of election broke election law in destroying paper ballots. A federal judge ruled that the supervisor of elections had broken federal election law by essentially destroying paper ballots in the race that Debbie Wasserman Schultz had versus Tim Canova. You're supposed to preserve the paper ballots if you are a supervisor of elections. This election supervisor, Brenda Snipes, who was forced to resign, did keep her pension, though. Isn't that great? Tossed away any evidence of election fraud. That's why you keep paper ballots. Tim Canova lost, I believe, by 14 points in 2016, which at that time, for a relative no-name, was not a huge amount to lose to a longtime incumbent. And his campaign had accused Debbie Wasserman Schultz of getting significant help and of basically rigging the vote. So they demanded to see the paper ballots to see, did they really lose by 14 points? But the paper ballots were nowhere to be found. Sorry if I'm giving you PTSD from 2016. So again, she had to resign in pretty much disgrace. Not Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but the election supervisor. But, and the new supervisor of elections that came in said, I'm doing things differently, this will be a neutral process, blah, 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 blah. So this time around, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is facing a progressive challenger. And why should this matter? Let's say to you, if you're watching from California, if you're watching from, I don't know, London, we have friends in Sweden, we got all sorts of people watching. Keep those super chats coming, love it. Antoinette, 81, $4.99, congratulations, keep up the good work, we will. Mary Taylor, $24.99, congratulations to both of you, take good care of each other. She does take good care of me. I'm trying hard for her. Chester, $10, congratulations, Jordan and Not. Can we get to see the fantastic couple before the end of the live stream? And how soon is the status community going to be growing? Chester, don't you start. Don't you start. We need to pay off this ring and some other things before I start, possibly impregnating or anything like that. Antoinette, 81, $4.99. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. And by the way, appreciate these super chats, but don't forget, GoFundMe takes less money, and we're trying to reach our goal. We've lost over 200 members because of coronavirus. I don't need a violin. We appreciate the members we do have, but coronavirus, unfortunately, has taken away over 200 members. Most of them have had to cancel and have sent very nice messages. Sorry to cancel, losing my job, this and that. So we're trying to kind of offset costs through our GoFundMe. So definitely, if you could afford any amount in the GoFundMe, we'd really appreciate it. There's the link. So why does this matter? Because we have, we know Republicans try to rig the vote. But how do you actually change things? How do you make this a more progressive country if you cannot, in all circumstances, whether Florida, whether any other city or state, if you cannot have faith that every election, primaries, state primaries in Congress, primaries in Senate, presidential primaries, are credible, have integrity. Well, we know in 2016, a federal judge ruled the supervisor of elections, who was supposed to be neutral, was basically rigging it for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. By the way, if you've never seen this is who the supervisor of elections was in 2016, the one who had to resign in disgrace. Does anything in this picture I'm about to show you look a little funky? Where's my tweet? There we go. So this was the supervisor of elections in 2016, sitting there posing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz during a campaign event for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the neutral supervisor of elections, who then destroyed paper ballots. So it kind of seemed like a big effing deal to me when somebody sent me this message earlier today. Where are you? Debbie Wasserman Schultz emailed this out to her supporters. Do you have election questions? Please join me Friday, August 7th at 10 a.m. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. for a Q&A session with Broward County Supervisor of Elections, Peter Antanasi, and Miami-Dade County Supervisor of Elections, Christina White. If you have questions for the supervisors, email them to blah, 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 blah prior to the event. We'll ask some of the most relevant questions. If you want to watch the event, it will be streamed live to my Facebook page at 10 a.m. on Friday. So, why does this matter, you might ask? Well, again, the supervisor of elections in 2016, who illegally destroyed paper ballots and was forced to resign, No, she wasn't sent to jail, even though what she did was illegal. Yes, she was able to keep her pension, even though she illegally destroyed paper ballots. The new supervisor of elections is literally holding an event with Debbie Wasserman Schultz 1 day before early voting begins down in South Florida in Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district. 11 days before the in-person primary between Debbie Wasserman Schultz and progressive challenger Jennifer Pearlman. What's interesting about this is I combed through Wasserman Schultz's Facebook, her Twitter, couldn't find this invitation. So essentially, from what I could gather, Debbie Wasserman Schultz emailed this to her supporters, which, frankly, sorry to say, are old Jewish women in South Florida, and I love old Jewish women. They are were my grandmother, rest in peace, part of my tribe. No offense to the old Jewish women, and men, but that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz's base. Her district, Florida's 23rd district, is a very, very Jewish and older district, very, very establishment. So she's sending out to her people, basically as, I guess, a reminder or a rallying cry, I don't know. Hey, join us on Facebook. I'm going to have the quote-unquote neutral supervisor of elections on my digital live stream to quote-unquote answer election questions. So it is obviously inappropriate, especially in a district that, again, the previous neutral supervisor of elections had to resign after illegally destroying paper ballots. It is very, very suspect and inappropriate why the current supervisor of elections would agree to join basically a campaign event for the longtime sitting incumbent. Now, the supervisor of elections, he would be free to do whatever kind of events he wants to inform voters of the different options, of the fact that early voting is now open, of mail-in ballots, of ways that you could socially distance while voting. That would be the job of the supervisor of elections by themselves, not in a joint event with the sitting incumbent, oh, by the way, 1 day before early voting begins. I don't know, call me cynical Susie, but it kind of gives off the impression of impropriety when the sitting incumbent is hosting an election Q&A, and thank you so much for the GoFundMes. Margie, $20. Melody, $30, getting us going in the GoFundMe. Really, really appreciate it. We are now less than $500 from our $113,000 raised, so keep it coming. All of this funding is going towards in-the-field reporting. When we get back in the field, as it's safe, we'll get back in the field. We're also spending more money on advertising, which is part of why our subscribers on YouTube has gone up. We've been doing Reddit ads, which are helping to beat the suppression. So the GoFundMe money is very, very appreciated. Keep it coming. GoFundMe, Super Chat, whatever floats your boat. And thank you for the Super Chat, Antoinette. So I reached out to the supervisor of elections asking, I don't know, being that your predecessor narrowly escaped jail by illegally rigging the election for Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2016, should you be joining the sitting incumbent on a live stream answering election Q&A questions? Because to me, her primary challenger, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's primary challenger, Jennifer Pearlman, isn't invited to this public meeting. So how is it a public meeting open to everybody if one candidate, the longtime sitting incumbent, is hosting it? Her challenger isn't involved. And the neutral election supervisor, who, frankly, he's not the one who destroyed the paper ballots, but he is the supervisor of election in an area with a track record for election integrity issues. So I reached out saying, isn't this kind of like electioneering? Isn't this kind of like giving off the impression that you're kind of like working with one candidate versus the other? So this is what I got back from Pete Antanasi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Yes, we feel it is appropriate to participate in public forums with sitting elected officials. We pride ourselves on being accessible, transparent, and accountable. Yeah. So, first of all, this is not a public forum. Technically, to the letter of, I guess, technology, it's public because it will be on Facebook and live. So, I guess he could get away with saying this is a public forum, but this isn't in person because there's a pandemic and Florida is a hot zone. So it's online. The back end of this is controlled by a candidate, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She is hosting this quote-unquote Q&A on the elections, one day before early voting starts. I wonder if Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the election supervisor will be telling the participants and the viewers of this quote-unquote Q&A, early voting is tomorrow. But again, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has not promoted this on Facebook, on Twitter. As far as I know, this has only been sent out to her email list of her supporters. So again, when the supervisor of elections, Pete Antanasi, says to me, we feel it is appropriate to participate in public forums with sitting elected officials. Again, how is it a public forum if the only way of knowing about this is if you are on Debbie Wasserman Schultz's email list? I've gone through her Facebook for the last 2 weeks. Nothing. Nothing about this. Twitter, same thing. It's not a public forum. It's basically a virtual election Q&A. The longtime sitting incumbent is hosting, inviting the neutral supervisor of elections with basically only Debbie Wasserman Schultz's email list recipients knowing about it. Basically, it's a campaign event rallying her base to start sending in their mail-in ballots and to early vote, with the supervisor of elections joining. Does corruption exist anymore? Do conflicts of interest exist anymore? This isn't about just Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is about election integrity. This is about fraud. This is a district that, again, just 4 years ago had the supervisor of election, I hate to be a broken record, illegally destroying paper ballots, which are meant to be backup sources to make sure that the count that's going out is accurate. 300 people watching, by the way. 221 of you have pressed the like button. Smash that like button if you haven't. It's a thumbs up button right under the live stream. Anthony, thanks for the $3 in the super chat. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing that this is happening in broad daylight. I sent it around to journalists today. Other than Ryan Grimm with The Intercept, most of them didn't respond to me or didn't even share this. I even sent it to progressive media. They didn't share it. Again, let me be clear. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is hosting an election Q&A. Only her supporters know about it. The only public notice of this public meeting has gone out to her private email list. So all voters don't know about this, and the supervisor of elections is participating. And her opponent has not been invited. So again, the supervisor of elections tells me Yeah, I'm just joining because it's a public meeting and that's what we do. Oh, transparency? How's it transparent and accessible if only one candidate's supporters know about it? So I asked some follow-up questions, and the supervisor spokesperson told me, sorry for the confusion. We are not hosting the event. We are invited, and as with as many invites as we could manage, we accepted. So I wrote back, that's kind of a distinction without a difference. Actually, I think it's a little worse that you're not hosting it and you're just joining one candidate's event. The supervisor of elections should not be attached to any events with candidates. They are supposed to supervise the election. They are supposed to basically be godless when it comes to candidates. If Pete Antanasi, the supervisor of elections, wants to hold a digital Q&A informing Florida's 23rd district voters how they vote, when early voting is, how you could do a mail-in ballot, all those things, have at it. That would be great. But that's not what's happening here. This is a virtual meeting hosted by Debbie Wasserman Schultz without her opponent partaking with the supervisor of elections. That's coordination. The follow-up questions I sent to Mr. Antanasi were not responded to. The other thing here is there, by law, and I'm just going to reference my own tweet, by law, the supervisor of election is supposed to save pictures of the daily reports for each voting machine. A bipartisan citizens audit down in Florida's South Florida's 23rd district, a bipartisan citizen audit group has requested that the supervisor of elections merely follow the law to save the pictures of the daily reports from each voting machine. Thus far, the supervisor of elections has not pledged to do so. Something smells wrong here. And I actually looked at the law in Florida. That is the law. Supervisors of elections are supposed to save digital, whatever you want to call it, pictures, proof, for each voting machine. The supervisor of elections, from what I'm told, has not pledged to do that. You tell me, does something smell wrong down in South Florida? So whether you live in Florida or not, this should matter to you because, you got a great victory by Cori Bush. I haven't been able to respond to that, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, I mean, if certain areas, you can't rely on referees to be neutral, you can't rely on the actual election to be without fraud, then how are you supposed to, in the numbers we need, take over? How are you supposed to allow progressives to have a shot at defeating incumbents like Debbie Wasserman Schultz if the whole damn network down there, the supervisor of elections, the media, if they're all just working together and the election is just theater? Now, I don't have proof that they're rigging the machines or anything, but I do have proof that the supervisor of elections is joining one candidate for an election Q&A that the wider public doesn't even know is happening because that one candidate only sent it out to her private email list and hasn't promoted it on social media. So I'll stay on it. I'm not on Debbie Wasserman Schultz's list, but I'll certainly watch the event tomorrow on her Facebook page unless they found a way to just block my viewing. And we'll see. We will see how this supervisor of elections is. But again, it doesn't give off a pretty picture of neutrality to me. And I think if you're down there, whether you support Jen Perlman's race against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Jen Perlman supports Medicare for all, Green New Deal, reparations for black people, decriminalizing marijuana, to name a few policies. Whether you support her or not, you should support actually fair, free elections. And I don't think that's what's happening in South Florida, unfortunately. So, moving on. Got 300 viewers. Should we show them something? What do you think? Have we got enough super chats to show them? Or should I drag it out a little more? Huh? Come on down. Come on over. About to show my wonderful fiance here.
I'm gonna trip over something.
Before we move on to the next topic, let's have some good vibes. So yeah, sit,
No, why am I sitting?
take a seat, tell the world why they should support status quo. Maybe show off a little jewelry. The microphone is yours.
Wait, come back.
I'm right here.
Rumors are true.
A little closer.
I don't know how this works. I can't see myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe right here. We'll do that.
It's a Art Deco inspired ring.
Uh-huh.
It's beautiful. I'm like an old soul, so
Talk a little louder.
I'm an old soul, so I love anything from the 1930s, anything Art Deco. I have these like scabs on my fingers because we went kayaking yesterday.
Who led the kayaking efforts? Who got us back to shore? My muscle.
No. I apologize for the scabs. They actually look pretty gross. But yeah, I'm excited, and Jordan completely surprised me. Even though you told me that I came on to your plan.
Well, tell them what I said when you said, "Are you proposing in front of a lighthouse?"
Right, so I was teasing Jordan, and I asked him, "Are you going to propose on this trip, like in front of a lighthouse or something?" And he was like, "No, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "I don't even have the ring anyway because it was a custom piece that his parents put a lot of effort into making." And then we went to this lighthouse that Jordan really, really wanted to go to, and there were these jagged rocks, and I was wearing my Birkenstocks, and I was absolutely terrified to walk, and it was hot, and I didn't want to do it, but I did it for Jordan because he told me how much he wanted to see this lighthouse the day before, and he held my hand. And
What about the couple that was blocking us?
oh yeah, there was a couple in front of us, and Jordan, like, I thought he was trying to get a good photo of the lighthouse, and he was like really irritated, which is very unlike Jordan. He's a very mellow, calm, chill person. And I was like, "Jordan, we could just go around her like it's not a big deal." And then finally she moved, and then Jordan gets down on one knee, and I'm like, I don't know, I was like shaking for like 10 minutes after, and he hired a photographer who was a friend of his cousin's, and he drove up from Boston, and he captured the moment, and it was super special. And I was wearing my status quo tote bag. This is not a plug. That was not photoshopped into the photo. Oh, you're getting the bag? And yeah, I don't know. And we had a great time, and I went collecting shells and kayaking, and we ate great food, and we're engaged, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, a lighthouse down on one knee. Yes, yes, yes. It was lovely. It was lovely. But, you know, it was a challenge because You know, she was starting to kind of maybe think I was doing it, so I had to kind of throw her off the trail. And I had a random photographer coming up from Boston, so I didn't know if I would be able to figure out where he was, how to meet him, how to not raise her suspicions that photographer was there for us. So it was all very wonderful, and I'm very excited. Last few years have been a little rocky for me personally, but Anat has been by far the best thing to happen to me, and I look forward to growing with her. And it's very important also to find somebody that is super supportive of what you do, whatever it is you do, whether it's a job that just gives you a paycheck if you're lucky enough to still have a job, or a job that you actually get to do what you're passionate about. She's passionate about status quo, which makes me even more attracted to her, because a lot of people, in my experience, you know, in any relationship, whether it's a friendship but also romantic relationships, they could be a bit selfish and only focus on themselves and what they want. But Anat's been extremely supportive of how hard I have to work, how long I work. You know, some people wouldn't like their partner working 6-7 days a week, or like every Sunday doing a live stream, which, you know, prevents us from doing things, you know, a lot of Sundays. But she gets it, and she feels very passionate that the types of stories we cover have to be covered. I mean, she's on Reddit just for fun half the time, posting our videos to try and get them more traction. So I love her, and hopefully she'll tolerate me for 40, 50 years. So, Gino, $49.99, super chat match. I will match the next super chat donation. And holy smokes, how do you stand up straight with that big rock on your finger, girl? Nice girl. Good thing you locked it down, Jordan. I agree. I would have done it sooner, but coronavirus slowed things down a little bit. So, Amit, $10. Appreciate it. Jacqueline DeBlue, you're my favorite couple, no doubt. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the well wishes, folks. Rick, $5. Congrats. Remember, communication is key. Been married for 25 years. I agree. I definitely agree. So, all right, keep those super chats coming. Now, let the good vibes go so I could bring on the corruption. Shall we? Nice segue. So, and again, if you can, we love the super chats, but we're really trying to hit our GoFundMe goal too. So if you can, if you can't, we get it. But if you can, we're less than $8,000 to go on our GoFundMe. We're not raising the goal again. $120,000 or bust. We're at $112,556. Frankly, I'm just going to keep it real. We're losing members very quickly. Not really because of anything we're doing wrong. It just is what it is. People losing their jobs. So people have been, you know, cutting what they need to cut, which we understand. We're getting a lot of nice messages, even though people are canceling, apologizing for canceling. I hope to see those people back when times are better. So kind of as a way to offset the revenue we're losing through membership, we're just trying to raise money in the short term. So if you can, drop it in the GoFundMe, no problem if you can't. So speaking of people losing their jobs, in a sane country, you know, politicians wouldn't let deadlines pass where people are going to lose anyway to make money, lose anyway to keep a roof over their head, and possibly face eviction. That would be a sane country. But that deadline is come and gone. So right now, the people who are living off that $600 unemployment, they don't have any money coming in. Maybe they have their state unemployment if they're lucky enough, but most state unemployment are offering crumbs to unemployed people. Arizona is like $220 a week. I think North Carolina, I spoke with someone getting $175 a week before taxes, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. Stephen Meyer, $5. She's a smoke show and a good person. You are lucky to have found her. You don't know the half about it, this smoke show. She is a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. I'm very lucky to have her. And even more beautiful on the inside. Gino, $9.99, super chat matched. Appreciate it, Gino. So today, after this deadline passed, we have 20th straight week, more than 1 million Americans filing for jobless claims. Even as enhanced benefits expired, the media painted it as some improvement because it's lower than the week before. But if you actually read in between the lines, which kudos to this Washington Post reporter, this is not good news. This is not good news. 31.3 million Americans are receiving unemployment aid. That number went up in July, a signal that A, many layoffs became permanent, and B, states finally worked through their backlogs. So if you look at the numbers, a lot of these layoffs are now permanent, not temporary layoffs. The thing that is most striking to me is this basic fairy tale pixie dust bullshit that Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party is trying to put forward, that it's all the Republicans' fault. I mean, don't get me wrong, Trump is the president. McConnell, Republicans, Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, Steve Mnuchin, they could sign on and just keep it going. I think the Democrats wanted till the end of the first quarter of next year. So all they would have to do is just keep the $600 a week going, continue the eviction moratorium. If you ask me, not make it a moratorium, just cancel the rent, forgiveness completely. Because it's not like just having a moratorium is enough. That just delays evictions. Because if you're not forgiving it, all of these people that are unemployed are going to owe months and months and months and months and months of back pay, of rent. No working person could afford that. No working person could afford that. But you have Nancy Pelosi. Just here's one example of the crap she's saying.
People have to stay home if their children are not able to go to school, or if they don't have child care. There are a number of reasons, but none of them is, I want to stay home because I make more money this way than other. Maybe some of these employers can pay their workers more, but let's not to go to that place just because I wouldn't paint all of them with that brush. We shouldn't be worrying about how much it's going to cost. So I said to the secretary, the plural of anecdote is not data. You have some examples, write them down, and let's add it up. And I'll show you my list of money that has been squandered, given to businesses who should not have gotten PPP and the rest.
I don't know if you heard that. Nancy Pelosi basically saying maybe employers could pay their workers more money. Gee, maybe. It's not like you have any power over employers in America. It's not like you controlled the House and the Senate when President Obama was president for 2 years. Democrats had control of both chambers. I mean, Republicans haven't done shit either. But it's not like you don't control the House of Representatives now and maybe could propose some things that would force employers to pay their workers more. Maybe now that you're, waxing poetic on how terrible the Republicans are, which they are, maybe you shouldn't have agreed to the original bill that set this to expire in 4 months during a pandemic with no vaccine. Maybe you should have demanded, since you had leverage in March and April, that we're not going to sign anything giving corporations money first, that we're going to take care of the working people of America first. Again, when you had leverage, no, I am not signing anything that gives corporate America any money. That could come later if they need the money. Right now, we need to deal with workers, the unemployed, people losing health care. But you have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer going in front of cameras just saying how terrible the Republicans are. But that only paints half the picture. Yeah, Trump is the president. The buck stops with him. Yes, the Republicans could just continue all of these things that we so desperately need. But again, the reason that Republicans do not feel forced to do the extension of the $600 a week, more than a $1,200 check, any type of UBI, is because they already got what they wanted, and that was trillions of dollars for their donors, for the bankers, for the oil companies, for the pharmaceutical companies, Silicon Valley, their donors. A lot of the donors are getting small business PPP program money that was actually meant for mom and pop small businesses, but got routed and basically laundered to donors of Republicans and Democrats. So I have a hard time. All I see is CNN, MSNBC putting forth Pelosi and other Democrats, and it's just theater. Because Pelosi, the master legislator, as they call her, she gave the Republicans exactly what they wanted. And now, only because Trump is down in the polling and he might take the Republican Senate with him. Republicans might lose the Senate because of how toxic Trump is right now. Yeah, Pelosi and the Democrats are lucky that they have any leverage now. But my whole point in establishing this is I don't want to hear anything from the Democrats until they demand, no, we're not moving at all. We're $600 or bust. We want more than a $1,200 check because this pandemic is not going anywhere, and unfortunately, it's extending in to 2021. It's already August. 1,400 people died yesterday in America. At the height, it was 3,000. Now we're at 1,400. Cases are still increasing in double-digit states. Nobody really knows as the weather gets cooler in maybe a month and a half. They've thought that as the weather cools, you'll have a second wave. And then you have, so the Democrats, I would actually credit them if they said the only thing to negotiate is extending this to the beginning of next year. And adding, in these negotiations, there's not one word about health care. Can you believe that? There is not one word that the Democrats are proposing, or the Republicans, about how are people that are unemployed going to get health care. I've spoken with people that can't even get through trying to get Medicaid. You think unemployment is bad to get right now? It ain't so easy to get on the Medicaid rolls right now. Obamacare? How are you going to afford the deductibles? Copays? Outrageous rates in states like New York, California. And then you have, I just want to give you one example. Pelosi's number 2 in the House. Let's take a look at what Steny Hoyer had to say just today.
To get to a deal. What's interesting here is you've got Steve Mnuchin, you've got Mark Meadows saying it's you that are being intransigent in this. It's them that have come up on some issues. I don't want to go into the nitty gritty, but are you letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, as I often have to ask when it comes to negotiations in Congress?
No, we're letting the absolutely essential be the goal. Not the good, not the great, not the best, the absolutely essential. In terms of confronting the virus, in terms of having state and local governments have the resources to help respond to the virus and prop up the economy, and to individuals, not only with respect to unemployment insurance, but to those personal payments that we're making, corporations who are going to lay people off that we need to help keep those people employed. No. It's not the perfect that's the enemy. It is the essential. And very frankly, if this administration had acted in the last 2.5 months and come up with an alternative, we would have reached an agreement before we left in July for these negotiations.
Do you think it's Friday or bust, as Mnuchin seemed to lay out? If you don't agree on major issues on Friday, there's going to be no deal?
I don't know what he means by Friday or bust. Let's say we don't make...
That's my take on it, but yeah.
Well, but I totally reject that, and I hope Mnuchin reflects upon that. There is no walking away from the American people. There's no walking away from these folks who are confronting a crisis and their families are confronting a crisis. If we don't get the deal Friday, we need to get it Saturday. We need to get it done as soon as we possibly can, and I hope that means Friday. I hope it means Saturday. And I will call them.
Oh, I'm sorry, Majority Leader. The threat from the president that you noted, that he says that he could take executive action if you don't come to a deal. Is that a threat you take seriously?
Well, it's hard to take anything the president says seriously because he's all over the ballpark every day. One minute he says this, and the next minute he says the opposite. So, whether or not he has the power to do that, I just heard that statement, so I don't know what he has in mind. But we ought not to have to rely on an executive order that may be questionable, because that will leave so many people in deep, deep distress and in danger, because you'll only be able to deal with one part of the problem. Are we prepared to make a deal on the money? We're not going to get $3.4 trillion. We understand that. But the fact of the matter is, what Speaker Pelosi has said and what Leader Schumer has said is, you are not dealing with the problem. You're not dealing with states and locals. You're not dealing with the healthcare workers. You're not dealing with testing and tracing, which everybody says is essential if we're.
So, you know what, just for fun, let me just remind you who this is, Steny Hoyer. Do you remember The Intercept broke this a couple years ago when Steny Hoyer basically was caught on hot tape trying to force a progressive candidate out of a race in Colorado?
You would like me to get out of the race.
You keep saying like you get out, and of course that's correct.
Yeah. I know you're fundraising for Crow.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm for Crow. I am for Crow because the judgment was made very early on. I didn't participate in the decision.
So your position is a decision was made, very early on before voters had a say. That's fine because that's the DCCC knows better than the voters of the 6th Congressional District, and we should line up behind that candidate.
That's certainly the consequence of our decision. There are two things I'd like you to consider. One may be easier than the other. First would be if you stay in the race. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I would hope you would not. I'll get to that. But if you stay in the race, it is not useful to the objective to tear down Crow. Mm-hmm. Crow's clearly the favorite. That doesn't mean you win. It just means he's the favorite.
I hear you.
That doesn't mean it's right. It just means
no, I hear you.
Right. I don't know Crow well, but I think he's a decent human being.
So before we go any further on that, Crow is the favorite. In no small part, Congressman Hoyer, because the DCCC not only put its finger on the scale, but started jumping on the scale very early on. And I'm born and raised a Democrat. I mean, it's undemocratic to have a small elite select someone and then try to rig the primary against the other people running. And that is basically what's been happening.
I hear you, and I disagree.
That process.
I hear you. I just disagree that it's undemocratic to have a small elite rig the primary. But that's neither here nor there. So I just played that so you kind of have an idea who you're dealing with here. But riddle me this, okay? Again, we are in this moment, August 6th, a week after unemployment, the $600 unemployment extension, gone. Eviction moratorium, gone. Most states, you could be evicted now, okay? So we're here because the Republicans got exactly what they wanted 4 or 5 months ago when the Democrats had maximum leverage. So now that the Democrats have a little leverage left, they had no leverage after they gave away the farm in the beginning, $4 to $6 trillion to corporate America. Now they have a little leverage because Trump is desperate to get something done. He's just hemorrhaging in most polls. If the election were held today, Trump would lose by a lot, it seems, according to the polls. So Democrats have maximum leverage, or I wouldn't say maximum, but a good amount of leverage And you have Pelosi saying, well, maybe employers could pay their workers more money. Just maybe. We don't have any control over that. Controlling the House of Representatives here. Steny Hoyer goes on, well, of course, we're not going to get to we're definitely not going to get to 3.4 trillion. Why can't you get the 3.4 trillion? Why can't you get more than the 3.4 trillion? Why aren't you demanding not only the $600 expansion, the $600 unemployment to continue, but add something else onto that? We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know if a lot of these jobs will be permanently gone, because a lot of these businesses might be permanently gone. Why don't you add something in terms of health care? Call it whatever you want. If you don't want to call it Medicare for all, fine. But you're not proposing anything in terms of health care and not demanding the Republicans do anything on health care. Right now, you actually could be the hostage takers if you were the Democrats. If you actually knew how to do politics. Trump, desperate. He's talking about doing executive actions on these things. McConnell doesn't want to lose the Senate. Why aren't you going in front of cameras and saying, no, the American people are desperate. This is not the time for compromise because we are dealing with a pandemic. We cannot compromise on the American people keeping a roof over their head. We cannot compromise on families being able to feed their children. We cannot compromise on people being able to have health care without the worry of cost during a deadly pandemic that we don't know when it will end or how it will evolve. Now is the time not to sit here and say, oh, this is Washington and we have to compromise, but to start hostage taking. You have the leverage because Trump is going to lose. You have the leverage because the Republican Senate might go down with him. But you're going on TV saying, well, of course, we're not going to get to 3.4 trillion. If it were me, I'd say to hell with it. I'm not meeting with them. There's nothing to meet about. We've fallen off the cliff. They have thrown the American people off the cliff. They, the Republicans, they're talking about a $300. Now they're moving up to $300 a week. Put it on the Republicans. Yet, they basically, again, as Bernie used to say, starting by offering half a loaf. $600 a week, honestly, is great. But what the Democrats should say is we cannot continue with piecemeal. We're going to extend it for 4 months, 5 months. We need to pass a law, universal basic income, until doctors, medical professionals like Dr. Fauci say it is safe for children to go to school. It is safe for all workers to go back to work. It is safe for people to congregate. And that might not be for another year. Let's be real. So we need structural safeguards in that are not going to run out in 3-4 months. They always say businesses need certainty. That's a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, people need certainty. Parents need certainty. Okay? Single mothers need certainty. Working people need certainty. Black and brown people that have been disproportionately affected by this, both economically and with health outcomes, they need certainty. And don't get it twisted. The Republicans, the buck stops with the president. The Republicans have the Senate. So it's not just Pelosi's fault. It's not just Schumer's fault. But the bottom line is, don't tell me after you drove the getaway car of the original terrible bill, you've all seen it, this Colin Tooley specialty, where are you? Don't tell me after you assisted the bank robbery and then turn around and pretend I wasn't there. What are you talking about? I wasn't driving the car. I wasn't even in the state. Hell yeah, Pelosi, Schumer helped loot the Treasury of $4 to $6 trillion. And now they're basically saying, well, we're here to compromise, and, the Republicans are awful, but we need to do something for the American people. I was saying a month before the expiration of the unemployment, of the moratorium, why weren't they in front of cameras then? A month before this. And by the way, Friday is the last day before they take recess. Congress goes on recess for the rest of August. It's quite the racket. If you could get in as a congressperson, you get to screw the American people. You get to operate in a system of legalized bribery where you sell your representation for the highest bidder, meaning to the donors. And then you get to go on vacation all the time. It's just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. And by the way, something that probably is going to happen sooner than later. I've kept on saying the only reason we don't have a mass, frankly, strike, maybe riot, I'm not calling for a riot, but is because of the pandemic. But what if you're in a situation, if you're a family, that it's just as dangerous to you to go out and protest as it is to sit there and not have any money coming in? Which situation is going to be more deadly? I think you're going to start in the next few weeks. If they don't do something real, and when I say real, at the minimum, extending this $600, not lowering it, more than giving an additional $1,200 check, which is not going to cover much of anything. People's bills and debt have been accumulating. I think you're going to see people say, the hell with it. We got to go protest. We got to go tear shit up. We got to go do more, whether it's cars on fire, buildings on fire. I think that's where we're heading. To be clear, this isn't something I'm advocating. I'm just telling you that's what happens when people become desperate. And people are going to be desperate because the bottom line is you can't, most people cannot go a week without a paycheck, much less 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And what is happening right now, this delay, sure, they'll call it retroactive. Once they make a deal, they'll say this is retroactive, so there will be no gap for the people that were getting the $600 a week unemployment. But there will be a gap because if you've been paying attention, the state unemployment offices, just to deliver the $600 a week, was having a hard time getting it to all the people. I've seen horror stories on Reddit threads and talking directly to unemployed people, them trying to get their unemployment of the $600 per week. That was with a flat amount of $600 a week. Now you're going to have a gap of possibly 3 weeks to a month between when that expired and this comes in. And you're going to ask state unemployment offices that are already overrun to retroactively cover those people. And oh, by the way, it might be a lower amount, so now they're going to have to get into the differentials between, I was paying $600 a week, now maybe we're paying $450 a week. You are going to have huge gaps in people receiving funds. Dave Dayan at the American Prospect wrote about this. They could barely distribute the $600 a week. Thank you for the GoFundMe. Arlene Chambers, $25.
Thank you.
Now, a little over, what is that, $421? Yes, $421 away from $113,000. So if there's somebody, who's got a pipe with that 420, wants to get us to 113,000, might be something in it for you. There's the GoFundMe link. So we'll stay on it, but I'm not feeling it's not looking good. It's not looking good if you are waiting for your unemployment. And I'd love to hear from people, how long could you wait? You know, yes, the $600 extra a week for a lot of people was more than they were making at their job, but it's not like that money wasn't going to their real-time costs, rent, utilities, car payments, student loans, whatever it is. And a lot of people were then paying off debt, credit, bills, other things that they had. But it's not like they saved so much with that $600 a week that they could now go 3 weeks to a month with nothing. Slipstream says $2,000 per person. I think at the least that's what Canada's doing. European countries, you don't have mass unemployment because the government is just covering the payrolls, which again, the Democrats could be demanding that. But they don't want to do that. Why? Because their donors won't allow it. It's all about the donors. We live in the United Corporations of America, and as such, the Democrats, they could pretend that they're fighting for the working man and woman, but they answer to the people funding their elections. Let's not even get into the fact that it's been normalized that Trump's and the RNC raised $180 million. The Democrats only raised $160 million last quarter. That is disgusting that our democracy, or whatever's left of it, has come down into basically a pissing contest between which party's oligarchs and plutocrats, meaning which party's sugar daddies and mommies, the donors, because it ain't small. Joe Biden is not raising $160 million off of small dollar donations. That I could tell you. Our democracy has been sold, and we have been basically relegated to a united corporation. And that's why, even though in this blissful time for me, starting my new life with a beautiful, beautiful fiance, I'm not feeling so great because I'm tired of the theater. I'm tired of being told that this will restore the soul of America.
And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Yeah, you know, Trump's the only racist in town. Trump's the only one with the mind going. This is why I'm frustrated, because you're relegated and attacked on Twitter and all these places if you dare just call it what it is. Joe Biden is corrupt. Joe Biden, frankly, ain't dealing with a full deck anymore. You want to say he's not racist? He's definitely ignorant on many issues of racial sensitivity. Most importantly, Joe Biden is from the good old boys era of politics, where it's okay to be corrupt. It's okay that donors run the show. It's okay to basically accept, you know, what do they call it? The soft bigotry of low expectations. We could only do so much. Incremental change. That's gotten us to where we're at now. So as much as I hate Trump, and I do, I don't want you to get it twisted. I'd like to see Trump go. I can't cheer for the Lincoln Project. I can't cheer these resistance wine moms on Twitter, you know, pretending that Joe Biden will save us and democracy will be restored if we just get rid of Trump. We don't have a democracy. And it's not because of Trump. Trump has made it worse. Oh, devil's advocate, you say, okay, Jordan, we'll go against Biden, but right now we got to get rid of Trump. So I'm with you, but we just got to get rid of Trump, and then we'll go against Biden. Unfortunately, that's usually not how it works. These same resistance frauds that only speak up when it's federal troops in Portland tear gassing protesters, tear gassing moms, tear gassing vets. They'll go back to sleep when it's the police doing it under President Biden. These same people ranting that Trump is destroying the planet, ranting about the pipelines and all this. Tomorrow I'll be covering the Dakota Access Pipeline, which an appeals court has now overruled a federal judge who ruled that the pipeline needed to stop flowing oil. An appeals court, shockingly, has overruled that, allowing the company, once again, to continue flowing toxic crude oil under the longest river in America. So I'm trying to get an interview with the attorney for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. So just as people were celebrating, remember, I said cautious optimism because this can be overturned on appeal. As of now, it has been overturned on appeal. But sorry, Jacqueline, if I offended you. When I say wine moms, I mean kind of like the Hillary Clinton clown. Progressives, of course, could enjoy wine, but at least you enjoy it with a little integrity and empathy for others. But the bottom line is, I can't in good conscience sit here and pretend that it's all Trump and just getting rid of Trump will restore some type of basic decency. It's not a decent country if you don't provide health care for your people. It's not a decent country if during a pandemic your proposal, and this is Biden and the Democrats, it's not a decent country if your proposal during a pandemic where it's crucial that people don't hesitate to get care or go get tested because they might hesitate for lack of health care. That is happening. There has been plenty of people that have not gone to get tested and just said, oh, well, if I have it, I have it, and continued to go out because they don't want to get stuck with the bill. So it's not decent, and there's no soul to restore if you already don't have one. I don't want to hear how great the country will be when Joe Biden gets in here if he still won't guarantee health care, a paid sick leave, have basic demands for corporations. He just told corporate America at a private fundraiser this before I went on vacation. 2 donors. Corporate America has to change its ways. It's not going to require legislation. I'm not proposing any. We've got to think about how we deal people back in. Basically, to his donors, once again, guys, do me a solid. Give a couple more crumbs to the worker bees. I'm not going to make you do it. I'm not proposing anything per se. But, try not to be so greedy. And why is this important? Also, why is this important? I think that because Joe Biden is basically running Hillary Clinton's campaign on steroids. I mean, he has doubled, tripled down. He's not proposing anything. Hillary Clinton didn't propose anything. It was all Trump is terrible. Trump is a threat. Trump is an unprecedented, evil. Vote for me. That's what Joe Biden's doing. You see similar things happen. The media narrative starts to form. It's over. Trump's going to lose in a landslide. That's happening now. And the media says, well, the difference is Biden's not as unpopular as Hillary was. That's true. The polls show that. But there's also something else. A lot can be shown by energy on the ground. For example, I just spoke with Jason, our freelancer who does some reporting for us in Philadelphia. He told me he's been around Pennsylvania. All he's seeing is Trump lawn signs. He hasn't seen one for Biden, including in the suburbs. I said this in 2016 when I was on the campaign trail for the Young Turks. I'm not seeing any energy out there for Hillary Clinton. I don't even see any lawn signs. Well, why is that? Because if you consistently have candidates that don't run on anything, that don't inspire people to go out and vote for them, but tell you to go out and vote against the opponent, it tends to depress the vote that you need. Sure, older people will come out for you. Sure, suburbia might come out for you. The pundits and all that will come out for you. But are the young black people going to come out for you under 40? Are the young Latinos going to come out for you under 40? Are young people under 40 going to come out for you in the numbers that you need? Because if you're not inspiring them, they might decide not to. Because the bottom line is, if you're unemployed, if you're facing eviction, cynicism tends to get in there. Hopelessness tends to get in there. You start thinking, oh, yeah, Republicans are awful, but have the Democrats really gone to the mat for me either? Have they gone all the way trying to get me out of this situation? So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at all that Trump's going to lose. I hope he loses. But the whole point of what I'm saying, I just have a problem pretending that our democracy is on the line here and Trump is such a unique threat. You know what? Trump's a unique threat. Biden's a threat too. Because to me, it's a threat if we continue not to have universal health care. That is a threat to me. It's a threat if we don't have $15 minimum wage across the board. Frankly, it needs to be more than that. Because I've been out in the country long enough to know the American people were in crisis before the coronavirus pandemic. Frankly, working people have been in crisis long before Trump even became president. That's what the corporate media doesn't understand. They don't care to understand it, and they'll never tell that story. So, before I go, let the good vibes continue. Right now, let me just keep it real for the people in the back. We got 350 people watching. Status coup, we're going to, Jen and I are going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to kind of try to come up with some creative ways to build back our membership. Like I've said, we've lost a lot of members. If you can, sign up as a member, statuscoup.com/join. We're going to have a members call next week. Going to be a lot of fun. Maybe Anat will join us, my new fiance. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. So you could join our members call and also get access to behind the scenes videos just for members. When we're in the field, members get exclusive content too. Just $5 a month. We got to get that. We need to grow that. Start growing that back. So if you're a new subscriber, there's a lot of different channels and groups asking you for money. I say this. You could give your $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is, to outlets pretending to be progressive, and then they just do Trump, Trump, Trump 24/7, Russia, Russia, Russia 24/7, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit 24/7. Or you could sign up for an actual independent outlet that actually goes out in the trenches, in the field, reporting on stories that nobody does. This is the first time, probably in 5 years, I haven't been out in the field. I mean, usually I go out in the field at least once a month, as money allows, sometimes more than once a month. When I say out in the field, I mean around the country. But coronavirus has stopped everyone, including us, from going out in the field. But we need to grow because, honestly, I can't keep the lights on here and pay for me, Jen, Colin, all the other bills we have if we don't grow. So I hope if you're new here, you could sign up. If you don't know, if you're totally new, here's a quick recap of what we've been doing lately. We go out in the field. We've been all over this country in the last 2 years.
Standing Rock. I've been with you. I've been with you since Standing Rock.
Wow, you got me on right now. We're doing it, baby. We're going to South Bend. It's time to show the real Mayor Pete.
In 100 days, they tore down 1,000 houses in 100 days.
Thank you, whether it's Standing Rock or Flint or everything else you do. You know, you guys, it's not even like watching news. It's just watching truth, you know.
It's not me and you, Jordan. It's the ruling class. It's David Koch. It's the Walton family, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's them, not us, that benefit from these illegal offensive wars. Come on over here. Whoa!
We're here at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and you are going to see live the actual caucus process. We are here.
We go out in the field, and we give the microphone back to the people.
Yo! Cool! I know who you are, yo!
How you doing, man?
You the man, yo!
Love it, love it, love it. And, lest we forget, Status Coup masks flying off the shelves. Status Coup. Go to our website, statuscoup.com, click on store. You could get a mask. You could get, a tote bag shown off by the beautiful Anat. When I proposed to her, she was wearing her Status Coup tote bag. Hoodie for the fall, pillow top, Status Coup mug, Status Coup phone cover. I mean, the options are just endless. Workout pants, it's a conversation starter. If you're single, conversation starter. Get it in the store. All right, folks, I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Glad to be back. Thanks for the well wishes to me and Anat. And also, thank you for the Super Chats. Really strong today. Super Chats are really appreciated. As always, if you got a story idea, something to pitch us, info@statuscoup.com. Info@statuscoup.com. Get a prenup. You think I have money to protect? Thanks for the marital advice, though. Info@statuscoup.com. Really appreciate it. And yeah, story ideas. We interview viewers all the time. And lastly, I know we're asking a lot, but if you can't become a member, but you can do a one-time thing, here's our GoFundMe, so we could try and offset the costs for members we've lost. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.